Hi, everybody. I'm Dave BONTEMPO. Welcome to our Philly Sports Wrap. We go around the horn right now with the Eagles, the Phillies, the Sixers. What an exciting time. Pete, Eagles, about a month away from the draft. Opening day for the Phillies. The Sixers are hot. So everybody's saying what's going on with you guys and the teams. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about all of our future videos. We're going to start right now with the Eagles. Pete, how do you assess what has gone on with the team in the offseason? Where do you think they are right now as the draft now gets a little closer to the front of our mirrors?
I think it was a little to be expected. We would let some players go, keep some players. It was a little surprising, a couple of the signings, especially like the Fletcher Cox, which kind of leads me to believe that Jordan Davis, they know something we don't, is he's definitely not ready to take over that full-time role. I know we kind of talked about it during the season. That was one of my kind of setbacks with him when they drafted him, was he saw about 30% of the snaps while he was in college. What happens when he gets to the pros and faces bigger, faster, stronger guys. So I think maybe they're trying to see what kind of shape he's going to come and get into. And then they're going to slowly kind of progress him. I thought that's what they were going to do last season. He got hurt, so they couldn't. So the Fletcher Cox, besides the Fletcher Cox one, the signings were pretty much expected. I'm glad to see Kelsey back. I'm glad to see Lane Johnson extending his deal to free up some space in the cap. Bradbury took a lesser deal to free up some space. Slay was a little. He actually did the same thing. He did a new contract to do the same thing. Obviously, the big shocker was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I was kind of upset at first that they didn't get him, and when it all went down, it was like something's up a little bit, because what he did sign for was not anything great, and now you're seeing kind of his true colors come out on Twitter. This guy's kind of very salty, so I think we might have dodged a bullet with him there. Even though I love the guy, I love the way he played. I was one of the people mad that they weren't re-signing him, but then kind of slowly everything unfolds to where maybe they saw this guy for who he truly was, just like the Saints did the year before.
All right, good assessment. How about you, Bill? When you look at this team in the offseason and what's coming up, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much agree with Pete. I think with the guys like Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, I think those guys have been playing for the Eagles so long and they got so close last year. I almost feel like instead of going to play for another team, they wanted to just hang around, see if they can get one more go at it, because they're all three of them could retire.
Yep.
After the next season. So that's my thought on those three guys. I don't know. CJ Gardner-Johnson's either betting on himself or he got really bad advice from his agent. So because I think the Eagles offered him a 3-year deal. But if he's a head case, we don't need him. I was a little surprised by the Darius Slay, and I was actually updating an Eagles page, and I had Darius Slay under the column of being released. And because there were rumors that the Eagles were going to let him go. Yeah. And then just before the day ended, he was like, they were renegotiating. So I had to go back and re-update the page. So that was an interesting one. Miles Sanders is one Pete didn't mention. I actually am not disappointed with them letting him go. He was really non-existent in the Super Bowl. And there were games where he just didn't live up to the standards of a number one running back. And running backs I feel it's like one of the easier positions to replace in the NFL. And there's been a lot of talk of Sermon really being ready to step up. Kenneth Gainwell showed us that he could potentially play a bigger role. And, you got 2 first-round picks. You use one of them on a running back. So there's possibilities with the running backs. I'm not it would have been nice to have Miles Sanders back, but I'm not upset or disappointed that he's gone.
Yeah, I think that was the most unsurprising thing, is letting him go. I'm glad he got his money. But yeah, Eagles, a lot of teams tend to not give that second big contract to running backs that have always been there. If he stays healthy, he's going to be good. He's going to be good. But yeah, we couldn't have gave him the money. We just didn't have it.
You guys were both on it. We all talked about it right after the Super Bowl. There was some message they were sending in not utilizing him the way you would think that they would utilize a guy in his position in the postseason and during the Super Bowl. So they probably figure that, hey, you got these guys up front can open up holes. We have a lot of people that can go through those holes. And there was something going on with the chemistry. Pete, you talked about it all year, about what was going on with Miles Sanders and why wasn't he being used more in certain situations. So, yeah, they've gone, different directions with that. Now, let's put you both in the catbird seat. It's draft night because, Bill, you alluded to this. All right. What about that first round for the Eagles? Remember, they get a 10 because of deals they made with the New Orleans Saints. We talked about running backs out there. With what's happened in the postseason now, I'll put this to each of you. First round, you get 2 picks. Tell me how you would approach this first round. Where are you going to go? Pete, if you're the Eagles, where are you going with that first and second pick?
The first 2 picks, I kind of had an idea of what I want to do. I think for the number 10 pick, I really like Miles Murphy out of Clemson, defensive lineman. I think you can never go wrong by shoring up the line. And that second pick, that number 30 pick we were talking about, I know a lot of people don't want to spend a first round pick on a running back, but if Jahmyr Gibbs is still there out of Alabama, I think they could go ahead and pull the trigger. If he's not there, I could see Howie trading down and getting another pick next season or something like that. Or if somebody's not there that they want. But yeah, that's what I think.
I kind of like that. A lot of talk about all different running backs, and do you waste a first round pick? What about quarterbacks? That fortunately, the Eagles don't have to worry about that. Bill, what do you think? Howie Roseman calls you just before draft day, says, Bill, what do you think I should do with that 10th pick? What are you going to say?
Well, the 10th pick, I think you go either safety or defensive lineman. Because you're gonna get a really good pick either way. But if I was let's just throw a wild card out there. With that second pick, why not package it with a later round pick and call the Tennessee Titans up again and say, what will it take to get Derrick Henry here?
Wow, good thinking, Bill. Hey, listen, we took care of you with that A.J. Brown thing. You're not still sore at us, are you?
Yeah. I mean, Derrick Henry is 29. He's a running back. We know how that is. He's a running back that welcomes hits. So it could be a disaster, but I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
In the Tennessee,
I don't see it happening, but it's
yeah. Not with the running back now.
Well, you look at the sites, and the Titans are way down there. They're expecting that team to plummet. So, Bill, to your point, it's almost like you're reaching out and saying, "Listen, you guys are on a downward arc anyway. Get what you can for some guys, right, before you basically have to give them away later."
They are.
Yeah, there's also the guy in L.A., the Chargers, like drawing Eckler. I know he wants out. So
yeah,
he's a nice player too. With the Eagles' offensive line, a lot of running backs.
Forgot about Zeke.
Unhappy.
Forgot about Zeke.
Didn't we have that conversation last week?
Yeah, I don't want to.
I mean, if it doesn't cost us a lot of money, and
I'll tell you what,
as a media member, I would love Zeke. That's just a great story. As a fan, I don't want him. But
that would be a great story. Zeke leaves Cowboys to not only win a playoff game, but win a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then retires.
He said, after I watched Why Eagles Why with those guys, I realized I could not do it in Dallas. I can't. I have to be loved. I have to be loved. I'm not one of the cockroaches, that but he's probably a guy viewed as past his prime, and he tried to make a deal with the Cowboys to lower his money and everything. He tried to be a team player with that, but they didn't want to do it. But nonetheless, it is pretty exciting what you think that they will be fortified with. Now, minimum standard. I'll throw this to you guys for the first round. Minimum standard. You know what you'd like to have. What is a must for the Eagles with these first 2 picks? What do they have to make sure they at least get blank out of these first 2 picks? Pete, they have to get at least blank out of these first 2 picks. What would that blank be?
As far as a position or like at work?
Position, player, what do they have to make sure?
They need an immediate impact player.
Okay.
With the first round, they haven't seen that much of late. Besides Devontae Smith, a few other guys, but yeah, first round picks are supposed to be NFL ready. They're supposed to be able to go on the field and go. We can't keep waiting in the wings because, like Bill said, our big guys are getting old. They could retire anytime. So we need somebody that can just step in and be an immediate impact player. That's what we need.
How about you, Bill? Minimum that the Eagles have to come out with.
Yeah, not only do I agree with Pete, I think the defense is really where the focus needs to be, because running backs you can get in later rounds if you don't like who's on the board in the first round, or you can pick somebody up in free agency. Because twofold. One is your defensive line is getting old, plus you lost Hargrave. The Eagles just weren't going to afford him. Especially with them trying to work out a long-term deal with Jalen Hurts. You need to have money available to give Hurts that big contract. And it's going to be over $40 million a year because he's worth a lot more than Daniel Jones.
Yes.
So I think you go defensive line. Linebackers, I don't think linebackers really are first-round picks. And linebackers tend to be in the
Eagles haven't picked a
round.
linebacker first round like 50 years or something crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. And it's, is Nakobe Dean, like I thought he was the sleeper of the draft last year, but he really didn't show up.
I think, but yeah, they just didn't use him. I think he's going to be an impact player this year. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah. So I would like, if he steps up, then I'm comfortable with him and Reddick. That's a good starting point there. But I would focus defensive line, defensive backfield. I think those are the two big areas of focus for the Eagles, because you have offensive weapons. You have the best offensive line in football still. You don't need a quarterback. So defense seems to be the most logical direction to go.
That's a subject that we're going to enjoy exploring again and again as draft day approaches. But right now, we're going to be shifting gears. Dave BONTEMPO, Pete AMATO, and Bill Gilman with you. I'm going to shuffle over to a different sport. Welcome back. Our Philly Sports Wrap. Dave BONTEMPO, Pete AMATO, Bill Gilman. We told you we were shifting gears. Do you hear that song? Take me out to the ball game. It is opening day for the Phillies. We're so happy to be joined by Kane Kalas, not only for everybody revered Kane's dad, Harry. It's baseball. It's the Kalas family. So, Kane, welcome to our show. And I know that you are always especially pumped up in a day like today. Tell us about some of your favorite memories with your dad on opening day and you in baseball, and then just go anywhere you want with this.
Yeah, well, I mean, opening day is just so exciting for me because, most of the time I'd get to see my dad was during the offseason in baseball, obviously, because he wasn't traveling and everything. But you could just tell the anticipation going into spring training and then the season for my dad. I mean, it was like nothing else. And I normally went down with him to Clearwater for spring training and spent some time there and had some time to really get into it. And now it's just my favorite part of the year is, the weather's getting better. Baseball's coming back on. It's opening day. And for the Phillies home opener, I'll be singing the National Anthem. I've had the honor and the privilege of doing that for the past 8 seasons. So yeah, it's just so cool.
Yeah, anytime I still hear "Watch That Baby," Michael Jack Schmidt. I mean, and then of course, it's great. Now, what about that? What is that feeling like for you? Singing the national anthem in front of a crowd like this on opening day, and especially in Philadelphia.
I mean, it's electric. There are no better sports fans in the world than Philadelphia sports fans, and just the excitement on opening day. I mean, I remember last opening day, there was a lot of excitement around the team, and a lot of people were really optimistic. And I was optimistic, but I was like, well, let's see what happens. And then we may end up making it to the World Series. And this year, the optimism is going to be 3 times that. And I hope we do just as well. You know, the Vegas betting markets, I don't think have us to be a World Series team this year, but I might be betting against them because, with how we looked last year and we only got better this season, I'm feeling really good about it.
Yeah, I think, definitely the anticipation is going to be through the roof, especially after that World Series run. And yeah, we did get better. On paper, I mean, we definitely got better. We just got to stay healthy. Unfortunately, the injury bug hit us a little bit. We lost Reese for the season. That's going to be a bigger blow than I think people realize. But we have a couple guys that are going to step up. I think Trey Turner is obviously a huge addition to this offense. We have pitching that kind of bolsters that back end. And I think this team is all around just a better team. Yes, with the NL East is going to be tough. The Braves are going to be really good team. I'm not too worried about the Mets, but I do think, Vegas has some, I see some, the Phillies might finish third in the NL East. They gave us that extra playoff wild card spot. So, we showed it last year. As long as we get in there, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we got the team that can kind of put the team on their back and just kind of run with it. But I know the home opener is a special day for you as well with your album coming out, High Hopes. I know we talked about it a little bit because we talked about your rendition of the Eagles fight song. Why don't you talk a little about your album, what gave you inspiration for it, and what do you think of it?
Yeah, so I've been working on this album for about 2.5 years. Here it is. It's going to be sold at the Phillies New Era shop at Citizens Bank Park. You can also buy it online at KaneKalas.com. It's an album of 18 American standards. These are songs that I grew up listening to my father singing, that I loved, and the album is dedicated to my dad and to the city of Philadelphia. It's a project that I'd been wanting to do for a very, very long time, and I finally had the time and resources to really do it justice. In dedicating the album to the city of Philadelphia, I used all local talent and musicians, over 50 different extremely talented musicians. Unlike most modern music, there was no computer-generated music in the album. It all came from, real instrumentalists, which was really important to me to support. We have so many amazingly talented local artists out here, and I was very fortunate to have a chance to work with them in making what ended up being a fantastic album of standards. We're talking about Sinatra era type stuff. You Make Me Feel So Young, All of Me, On the Street Where You Live. It's really, really awesome stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at the playlist right now, and there is some really good classics on there. I can only imagine your dad singing On the Way to Cape May while you guys are going down to the shore for the summer. Well, summer for him would be probably off season, but that would be a great sight to see. What kind of song resonates the most with you and your father? Kind of.
Well, speaking of On the Way to Cape May, there was a WHYY documentary on my dad that they were just doing on him. They were following him around, and he just sang the stuff all the time, that when they were just getting B-roll of him, part of what they put in the documentary was just him singing On the Way to Cape May to himself. Right. And so that's kind of how I got the inspiration for the whole album. I'd say for me, the most touching song in the album is probably Bridge Over Troubled Water, because that's what they played at my father's procession at the Phillies Stadium after he passed away. And he had told me and my brothers that when he reached his final resting place, that's a song that he wanted to be played. So for that song, we have a really, really touching and tremendous chorus, as well as basically a full orchestra on that piece. So yeah, that was great. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think the fans would like to hear that story. I think it gives a little more kind of feeling to when they listen to this album. Bill, did you want to ask him about anything about the season? I know there's a lot of anticipation for it.
Yeah, I guess in terms of opening day at Citizens Bank Park, what is because you've been a part of it for so many years, what is your favorite part? What is the thing you look forward to most for that first game at Citizens Bank Park, especially coming off a World Series year?
It's really the excitement and the optimism from the fans. I mean, it's hard to describe. In the middle of the season, you don't get the same feeling because there's always something amiss at that point, right? Whereas on opening day, it's just this jubilant feeling of we got a real shot, and especially this year with what happened last year, I think we're gonna especially feel that. I like it when our home opener is a little bit later, like this year it's April 6th as opposed to today, because we got a couple more degrees on our side, hopefully. And when you're singing the anthem, the last thing you want is for it to be like 30 degrees and windy. But yeah, I mean, it's really just how it's palpable, the excitement of the fans going into a fresh season.
I'm curious about something, Kane, that I worked with a photographer who was bringing back his dad's work after his dad had passed away. He was publishing it, and he did a lot of things, and all of a sudden he came across some of the things his dad worked on, and he got closer to his dad on another level from some of the things he discovered after his dad had passed away. Have you gone through anything and discovered anything in working in the album or in anything else that you have come across that brought you even closer to your dad on another level, or revealed something to you about your dad that you had not known?
Well, something that's really interesting is on the album, we have a couple of guest artists, and one of them is local comedian Joe Conklin. And
very nice.
Joe's good. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. We do a trio of the song Guys and Dolls. And when he came into the studio, he was doing his impression of my dad. And I'm like, man, that's really good.
Yeah, he does a good one. Yes.
He does. And he uses a very deep voice, kind of like my dad in the actual song. He sings it an octave down. So that was really cool. But I'd say in terms of the music, one of them was in doing Edelweiss, which is Rodgers and Hammerstein's song from The Sound of Music. That was my father's favorite song, and I hadn't done too big of a deep dive into the song before. I was never in that particular musical, but really just connecting with that piece and connecting to what it meant to my dad as his favorite song. It's a very kind of minimalistic tune, but it has so much emotion behind it. For anybody who's ever watched the movie The Sound of Music, they'll know what I'm talking about. Yes. And so that was one of them. And one of the great things about the CD is when you buy the CD, you get a booklet, right? And in the booklet, it's going to go over every single track on the album and how it relates to my father, how it relates to the city of Philadelphia, and it pulls it all back in, So of course you can stream the album you're going to be able to stream the entire album online once it's dropped on April 6th. Right now, there are currently 3 singles out, but once it's dropped, you can stream the whole album online, of course. But really buying the physical product gives you that, will show you exactly how every single song, first of all, came together, but secondly, how it ties into my dad and to the city.
Very nice. Yeah.
I'm a fan of vinyl, so I'm going to probably get the vinyl. I see that there's a vinyl. Yeah, there's a vinyl thing.
There you go.
So I'll probably go with the vinyl, to be honest. I like the
beautiful.
I don't blame you.
Very nice.
Yeah. Speaking of Joe Conklin, I know you have something coming up with him. I heard it on the radio randomly the other day.
I do.
If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's coming up at Parks Casino. Let me make sure I get the date right for you guys here. That's coming up at Parks Casino on the 14th. I believe his shows are normally at 8 p.m. And he gets a whole orchestra together, and I got a group of performers and singers. So Joe goes up there, does a couple of pieces, a little bit of parody singing, but then he has some other vocalists like me who he's asking to sing a little bit more, not comedy, a little more of a dramatic piece. So I'll be performing "You'll Never Walk Alone," which is originally from Carousel, and it's a touching song to me, and it's going to be a fun, good performance, and there's going to be a lot of laughs and comedy in there as well, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a good time for anybody that wants to not do anything on the 14th. Unfortunately, I will be away on business. I'll be in California, but if I was here, I would definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I think there are like something like there's going to be like 7 or 8 different performers, just some very talented singers, both traditional singers and parody singers who are going to be there. Of course, Joe is just awesome. I went and saw his show at Parks about a month ago, and he was really, really good. And it was also featuring I think one of the finalists of America's Got Talent, who was awesome. So his show is always good. So if you're Parks and Ben Salem, if you can make it out on the 14th, come on out, and we'd love to see you. Yeah,
Joe is one of the biggest Philadelphia sports fans in the city. I mean, he does shows just talking about sports, which is great. I mean, he's not just the guy in Philly, the comedian. He's really good. He sounds like these guys. It's like watching him sound like your dad and watching him sound like Darren Dalton. It's like crazy that he can change his voice like that.
I'm a big stand-up fan in general, and what I've always thought is really interesting is how Philadelphia sports fans. Sports is such a big part of Philadelphia that you can make a living as a stand-up comedian just doing sports voices, right? This isn't true in any other city. You can't go to LA and hear the comedians there do Vin Scully. Like it's just not a thing, right? No. But here in Philly, it's you can make a living just impersonating sports personalities because of how important of a sports city this is. And it wasn't until after I grew up, I just kind of thought growing up with my dad that it was like this everywhere. And it wasn't until after I grew up and I started traveling and living in some different places where I'm like, no, Philadelphia is a very, very unique city, and our sports fans are the most passionate sports fans in the world.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. I have a 3.5-year-old, I have a 1.5-year-old, and he was wearing his Phillies gear going to school, and literally every kid and teacher had Phillies gear. Not some of them, not most of them, every kid. And a friend of mine who lives in New York, big Yankees fan, and he said it's not even like that in New York. He said you guys are nuts. And he's like even when your team stinks, everybody still wears their Phillies gear. He's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, that's why you're a Yankees fan.
Exactly.
Kane, it's a big moment. I think anytime as a kid that you've done something that wows your dad. Now you are here with a legend in the area of Harry Kalas. So, but of course you knew him on such a level that for you, poker player, singer, you obviously got a presence. What is the first thing you did professionally that wowed your dad?
Well, the first time I ever performed at the Phillies stadium, I was 15 years old at the time. And somebody came to my dad and who organized the National Anthem and said, I understand your son performs in musicals. Would he like to try the anthem? My dad said, well, I'll ask him. He asked me. I said, yeah, sure. No problem. And I showed up. I was ready to go. My dad was so nervous. I mean, I've never seen him. Like he didn't get nervous to go in and do a voiceover or to broadcast game. But when I was doing this anthem, he kept asking me like, did you rehearse? You got the words? I'm like, yeah, Dad. I just figured I'd wing it. So I got down on the field and I performed it. It went well, but it wasn't until afterwards I saw the video of they televised it where they were showing me singing and then going back up to my dad, and you could just see in the booth, just tears rolling down his face.
That's awesome.
And I remember afterwards when I saw him, he just said, son, I'm so proud of you. And because he was really nervous about it. I mean, if you really get nervous about something, and it's pent up and it's built up, it's a pretty big relief when things go well. And I think that's part of what he was feeling. But yeah, that's really the first time that I ever saw my dad, I guess, in a public sphere, really just say, and feel, son, I'm so proud of you. He was a great dad, though. He never let me feel like he wasn't proud of me in everything that I did. And before he passed is right when I kind of started my poker career. So I never, reached the point of notoriety or profitability that I did after his passing. But before his passing, that was my first year playing poker, and things were going very well so far. And he just told me, son, whatever whatever makes you happy or whatever you want to do. That's what I want you to do.
That's awesome. Great answer.
Yeah, it's quite and it's pretty enjoyable to watch, for us to watch you emerge on your different planes, because you've got that connection, and then you've got the poker by itself, and then you also live for the age of how we market ourselves differently, and you can get to the public spotlight very quickly. So it's just nice. It's nice to see these family seeds continue, and then you kind of making your own way. So you've got a lot coming up this spring, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and more importantly, what I learned from my dad is how to treat people. And anywhere we went, there in Philadelphia, there were always fans, and my dad always had time for not just some fans, but every single last fan that was there to talk to my dad, to get an autograph signed. I mean, when we would go to the games, before I was old enough to drive, I would ask my mom to drop me off and pick me up, because after the game, my dad would take 2 hours to stand and sign every single last autograph. Fans would wait by, the lot where they knew the players parked and the staff and media parked. And my dad would get out there, and every single last autograph would get signed. We'd go to Wawa on the weekends, and there would be people who wanted their voicemail done by my dad, and he'd do it every time. And that just had such an effect on me, and really showed me the way to interact and to treat people. If people are a fan of yours, right, that's something special, and that means something. And you should treat those people that way. And even if they're not, even if they're people who don't know you, what my dad taught me is you should treat every single person with respect and with love. And so that's really important to me. A funny story, when kind of before I realized how popular my dad was, right? Because when you're the son of somebody who's famous, sometimes you don't really realize exactly what's going on. But I think I must have been like 10, 11, 12 at the time. And we went to a local hibachi restaurant. There was a hibachi Japanese steakhouse, teppanyaki, in Springfield. And so we're sitting at a table with some other people, and I noticed that they're whispering to each other like, "Oh, this is Harry Kalas or whatever." And the chef finishes his thing, and my dad, because he loved to embarrass, he always did something to embarrass me in public when I was young. The chef finishes, and my dad stands up and starts clapping for this teppanyaki chef, right? And then I see everybody at the table go, "Oh, Harry's standing up," and they stand up, and then all of a sudden the table behind us, they start standing up, and everybody in the whole restaurant, there were like 25 tables, they're all giving this guy a standing ovation. Nice. And meanwhile, this teppanyaki chef, he doesn't know who my dad is, right? So he's like, "Thank you, thank you." It's it was great. It was great. He thought he had the best performance of the lifetime there.
Your dad knew exactly what he was doing. That's great. I mean,
you actually have to hope that guy never found out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Boy, he lived the rest of his life like that. Bill, if we left you any room, we'll give you your last shot at this. And if we didn't, well, then we're sorry about that.
Yeah, there's
I think you guys covered everything.
Yeah, it's no surprise that your dad was so beloved in the city. I mean, you think like players are beloved, coaches, stuff like that. He was a Phillies announcer for such a long time, play-by-play guy, and he was loved more than most players that have come through here, and that's a big honor. I mean, that like my father, my grandfather, they all would talk about probably Harry Kalas more than any players during the season. And it just, and he's the voice of the team. So when you're listening to games, watching games, he's like kind of there with you all the time. And I think that's what, I think that's why people resonate with him so well, because he's a real fan. You could tell it's hard for sometimes it's hard for announcers to take that fandom out and still not be great announcers, but he did it perfectly. Like he was a fan, and he explained the game better than anybody, and gave that excitement of being there when you're listening to the radio or watching on TV.
Yeah, I mean, he was a consistent part of the organization, and he really channeled the fans' optimism and the fans' desire to win. I mean, when I was at home and I didn't get a chance to watch the game, my dad came back home. I could immediately tell whether the Phillies won or lost. Like, he actually cared. And even when the Phillies weren't a great team, he had optimism going into the next road series. You know,
I-
it was amazing.
yeah, you
And
definitely
throughout his
can.
career, he just loved Philadelphia sports so much. Like, of course, he loved baseball, but he loved the Phillies and he loved Philadelphia sports. Like, there were, you know, my mother would have loved for him to pursue some of the other opportunities that were on the table with ESPN or whatever
Mhm.
that paid more. And my dad just said, no, I want to broadcast for the Philadelphia Phillies. That's what I do. That's what I love. And it was. And he would have been less happy doing some, national thing or whatever else. He just loved broadcasting Phillies baseball.
Yeah, I know he
Yeah,
did
to
some
your-
NFL Network stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. To
Yeah,
your
he was-
point, I
NFL
saw
Films,
him.
wasn't it?
I
He was
saw
the
your
voice of
dad.
NFL Films. Yeah.
NFL
Yeah,
Network.
NFL Films. He was the voice of those. I saw your dad at some of the Philadelphia sports writers dinners at the end of January, and he was already raring to go for baseball. To your point that he wasn't looking to say, "Okay, I'm going to be on ESPN. I'm going to be here. I'm going to Clearwater." I can't wait
Exactly.
for that. And he was genuine on the reach out. Before we let you go to your next your ventures here, Kane, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Anybody have anything they want to add in the ninth inning of our interview here?
No, I'm good. I think you guys pretty well covered it all. I'm just so excited and optimistic about this season. Can't wait to see everybody on our home opener on April 6th. And again, the album will be available at Philly's New Era stores. You can also go to KaneKalas.com. Follow me on all social media sites. It's just Kane Kalas across the board.
And
Go ahead.
before we leave, I'd like to get everybody's bold prediction. Just one crazy bold prediction for the Phillies. Mine is Trey Turner wins MVP. I want to hear what you get if you guys have anything.
All right, I'll say 91 wins for the Phillies, and it puts them wherever it puts them. That's just a number in my head today. 91.
I'll go against you guys took my first 2 points. So I'll just say the Mets will fall short of expectations once again,
Okay.
and that will help the Phillies case.
I'm going to go 90. I'm going to be one game less optimistic than you. I'm going to go 90, but that's still a strong season. It should get us at the very least into the wild card. And then we all saw what we could do when we're a wild card team going in there.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Ninth inning of the Cardinals game, it all changed. Hey, here's one guarantee. Kane, we can't wait to see you belt it out on opening day. Good luck for that, brother. And thanks for joining us here today. It's been a delight for everybody.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Shane.
We go around the Philly sports rap horn. Dave BONTEMPO, Pete AMATO, and Bill GELMAN with you. There was so much excitement, Bill, with the Eagles in the Super Bowl and so much excitement with the Phillies in the World Series that under the radar, the Sixers have another 50-win season. And as we close in on the regular season, guess what? Playoffs are coming fast, Sixers fans. It won't be very long with this team.
No, it won't. And it's funny that we're talking about the Sixers. Last night I went to local Chick-fil-A to pick up some dinner for my kid. And I was wearing my retro Sixers jacket. And I went to pay for it at the drive-thru, and the guy said, "Is this the Sixers year?" I said, "No, they're not going to pass the Boston or Milwaukee."
How about that? They're already talking.
What was the jacket I was wearing? Wherever I go, I get people stop me because it's a retro 1980s jacket.
That's very nice. You got a championship from then.
Yeah. I mean, it's I had it hidden in the closet for years. And I right after the tanking, I brought it back out of retirement, started wearing it, and everybody stops me. It's a conversation piece, but
yes.
The retro jackets are the best ones.
Yeah, so it's definitely. I think this is the best team they've had under Doc Rivers. They seem to be playing real well. My concerns are, is James Harden going to remain healthy? Same with Joel Embiid. There's always seems to be some sort of lingering issue with him. Not as bad as let's say the Lakers have had with injuries this year, but there's always injury concerns. I love Maxey. I think he's a great young player. But when you're talking about a 7-game series, I definitely think they can make it out of the first 2 rounds, conference championship, they would really have to be on top of the game and to get past. I just see Milwaukee and Boston really be the teams to beat still in the East, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Well, Bill, I think you're right on as far as expectations. People around the team who have covered it for years say, I think this team gets into the second round and they don't even get past the second round. But before we get a specific thought on you, Pete, you talk about retro. I remember on the talk shows when they first started to talk about the Sixers being good again, and that was about 5 years ago. They have been good for some time now. Not a championship, but every year you're getting a lot of wins. And this year with the 50, that was really good considering what people were saying and the injuries. Now, Pete, when you look at what's being expected of this team, Bill's right about the Bucks and the Celtics being in the way. What would it take in your mind for the Sixers to get past that logjam of the second round, maybe the third round, and get deeper?
Definitely staying healthy. Embiid had kind of like a freak injury last season, season before that with his face. It was just crazy stuff. And Harden is dealing with a Achilles thing right now, but Harden has looked good. Maybe not this little stretch of games, but a week ago he had a stretch of games where he looked incredible. It looked like the old James Harden. I think they do have a chance because I think the East is going to win the championship in my opinion. I don't think the West teams.
Phoenix Suns.
I just don't see the West like they're just. I think the East are just so much more talented right now. So it's going to be tough to get there. If they can get there, they can win. Right now, if the season ended, they would be playing the Nets, which I think they should destroy the Nets. I don't think they.
Where's Ben Simmons?
What's left of them?
Yeah, I don't even know how they got into play. I mean, I don't even know how they're in there, to be honest.
Because they had a great start to the season, and then
before they got rid of everybody, they were doing well. Yeah,
so that should be an easy win. But then obviously they would play probably they're going to have to go Milwaukee or Celtics. I would rather play the Bucks. I think they can beat the Bucks. I think they play the Bucks better. The Celtics just seem to have our number every season, especially this season. And I don't have too much confidence in Doc Rivers. I think I have confidence in our talent, but when it comes to playoffs, you need coaching to kind of make adjustments. I feel like I'm talking about the Eagles right now. Make adjustments, right? And Doc Rivers showed that he didn't do that last season in the playoffs. So I think they definitely have a chance. I mean, I think the Celtics are going to be tough. But if we can kind of squeeze by the second round without having to play them, I think the Celtics are our only challenge. I think they can make it to the conference finals if they can somehow beat the Celtics or somebody else beats the Celtics, which is probably not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think any East team that gets into the championship are going to win. I think that's just my opinion.
Bill, I think Pete hit on something good there with Doc Rivers. I'll throw this to you before the point, and then you could add in the point you were going to make about, to me, way too much was said about Ben Simmons' foul shooting in those games, against the Hawks, but not the fact that they blew a 26-point lead, and that's coaching in Game 5, which should have made that free throw shooting irrelevant. That just popped in my head, Bill, as Pete was talking. But what were you going to say to add to what your thoughts were?
Well, you had to bring up Ben Simmons again.
Of course I did. Especially if they play him now.
No, he's shut down for the season.
Yeah, he's done.
What a surprise! Wait, are you telling me Ben Simmons can't play?
I think he
lost his desire to play.
Modeling career. I think he wants to be a model. To be honest,
he's under contract for 2 more years.
He's like, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be a model, and I'm not even joking. Like that's the guy is.
Yeah, I think he should just take his money and go out to another career, because clearly, if he's legitimately hurt, he's hurt. But I just feel like he doesn't have that drive to cut it in this league.
Yeah.
And he hasn't proven me wrong. So if they end up getting broken in the playoffs, Brooklyn they already started blowing up that team in the last over the last 2 seasons. They got rid of their big three, and Ben Simmons, he's probably gonna be the next to go. I can't see the Nets holding on to that contract. They'll try and find a way out of it. But what I was saying is, I disagree with you, Pete. I don't think the winner's coming from the East. I think it's coming from the West. Kevin Durant is finally healthy again. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. I think once they're playing together, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
The Suns are the Sixers of the West, though. They always find a way to blow it. And I like the Suns last season. I like the Suns season before, and they always find. So it would be nice to see Suns Sixers. I'll take that.
I'll take
anything with the Sixers in the finals.
Bill, I think you have a good point about Durant and what he's the added pieces there, because experience, and that team has just needed one little thing to get over the top. And that might be the thing this year.
And Durant's the most talented player in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, right now, I think, well, and, Jokic, I mean, you got to, because he's won back-to-back MVPs. It's nice to see that Embiid's now the favorite for MVP, I believe.
Yeah, Embiid deserved it last season. Jokic deserved it the season before. If Embiid gets hosed again, it's going to be...
There's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, after last season, him not getting it, that was a pretty big surprise. So this season, I think they have to give it to him. They have to, right? It's like,
well, they don't have to. It's subjective is the problem.
Yeah,
it's not like
they don't like the process.
Yeah,
that's the reason. Like they don't want the other teams doing the process. So I'm pretty sure that's what they hold against them. But
the real measure of an MVP really is you take him out of the lineup, and where is that team?
Yeah,
right.
Joel Embiid can't play for the Sixers. That's not even a 500 team.
No.
So that's a hey. Well, we'll see if he gets his due. But I like the predictions, guys. We have a couple things to chew on. One idea that the Sixers will make it into the second round. One idea that the Sixers will make it into the third round. And I love Bill's angle on the Suns, because that seems to be the team of destiny this year, and that collectively will give us a lot to look at the end of the NBA regular season and in the postseason. Hey, we thank you for joining us around the Philly Sports Wrap for the Eagles, for Kane Kalas and the Phillies, which we really enjoyed his time, and the NBA. For Pete Amato and for Bill Gelman, this is Dave Bontempo. Please hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos, and we'll be back at you sometime, somewhere. So long, everybody.